All right, let's just jump right in. We're all living through this massive AI explosion, right? But with all the noise, all the promises, how do you separate what's real from what's just hype? Well, we're about to find out by following one person's wild ride.
I mean, it's everywhere you look. Social media, the news. You see these claims that generative AI can do, well, anything. From writing a simple email to, get this, creating entire university courses from scratch.
But what's it really like when you dive in head first? You know, what happens when you actually try to use these tools for something big, something complex and professional? What are the real highs? And more importantly, what are the real lows?
So this isn't just some theory. This is the actual documented story of an advertising lecturer, a guy named Stephen King. He basically kept a detailed journal of his own experience. Researchers call it an auto-ethnography, as he put all this AI hype to the test. So yeah, let's follow his story.
All right, Section 1, the AI gold rush. So what kicked this whole thing off? Well, the story starts where, let's be honest, a lot of stories start these days, social media. King was just getting flooded with posts from these so-called edu-influencers.
Yeah, he called it a frenzy, a constant pressure cooker of content, all claiming that anyone, literally anyone, could become a course creator overnight. No experience needed, just use AI. And you know, he felt like he had to see if it was for real. And this is the perfect map for his journey, the Gartner Hype Cycle. If you've never seen it, it basically shows how new tech almost always follows the same pattern. There's an initial trigger, then this huge peak of hype, followed by a big crash of disappointment, and then, finally, a slow climb to where it's actually useful. And let me tell you, King's experience, it follows this to a T.
Okay, so here we go. He dives in. And just like Alice falling down the rabbit hole, those first steps into the world of AI were just full of wonder and excitement. He was climbing that peak of hype really fast.
And his first reaction was basically just, wow, this is so helpful. I mean, he tested ChatGPT on a simple task he knew inside and out, rewriting an assessment rubric, and it just worked flawlessly. The magic felt real, and that first taste of success, totally intoxicating.
And that's how it starts, right? Those early successes led him to believe that AI was a panacea, a cure-all. After just a few more little wins, he started thinking AI could solve, well, everything. His expectations just shot through the roof, way beyond what the tech could actually do back then.
I mean, you can feel the energy in his journal. He wrote, "This is huge. I'm shell-shocked. This is it. This is the absolute peak of the hype cycle form." For him, AI helped him draft 3 different course outlines in just 4 hours. He was totally convinced he'd found a tool that was going to change everything. He was ready to shout it from the rooftops.
But right at the peak of all this excitement, something else was happening. A different, kind of more concerning pattern started showing up in his journal.
Yeah, when you look at his journal, the signs were all there. He talks about feeling totally overwhelmed by all the apps. He even writes, "I'm becoming addicted." He couldn't take a day off without what he called relapsing back to work on AI. It got so intense he started feeling paranoid, like his computer was watching him, and his feeds was just bombarding him with AI content. The hype was definitely taking a toll.
And this obsession wasn't just in his head, it started hitting his wallet too. His belief in AI led him to make 2 big moves. First, he actually bought a premium AI tool to clone his own voice. And second, he started paying for a subscription to host the AI art he was making. I mean, he was all in. Money on the table.
And this is where the story takes a turn. Because you know what they say, what goes up must come down. He started using AI for the main event, actually creating the lecture slides, and that's when the magic just disappeared. This is the crash. Welcome to the trough of disillusionment.
He actually called it the Goldilocks problem. You know the story, right? One tool, Tome.app, gave him way too much text. Just dense, unreadable walls of it. The other one, SlidesAI.io, gave him way too little. He even paid for the premium version to get more, and it still wasn't enough. Nothing was just right. Both were totally unusable.
And this is such a human thing to do, right? Instead of thinking, hey, maybe this technology just isn't that good yet, he started to treat it like a person. He literally wrote in his journal, wondering if his AI was getting bored with the tasks. He was trying to rationalize why it was failing instead of just facing the fact that the tool had some serious limits. So after all this frustrating work, he finally puts together a draft. But the real test, the moment of truth, came when he showed it to his research partner, Dr. Judy Prasetyo, who's an actual expert in this stuff.
And this was the breaking point. His partner spotted a mistake. But it wasn't a typo or something obvious. It was a factual error so subtle that only a real expert would ever catch it. King himself had absolutely no idea it wasn't real. And just like that, the illusion was shattered. This tool wasn't just a little buggy, it was dangerously unreliable, and in a way he couldn't even see. He canceled his subscription right then and there.
But look, the story doesn't end there, in that pit of despair. After hitting rock bottom, King started that slow, thoughtful climb up with the hype cycle calls the slope of enlightenment. This is where you find the real, lasting value.
So how'd he do it? Well, his path forward was pretty clear. First, he had regular meetings with his expert colleague, which gave him a much-needed reality check. Second, he had to reevaluate his own expectations and admit they were way too high. And third, he started over, but this time on much smaller tasks. He stopped trying to use AI as a magic do-everything button and started using it as a helpful assistant for things like brainstorming workshop activities. And this quote really gets to the heart of his breakthrough. He realized he'd overestimated what was possible. But more than that, he understood that his own lack of good input was part of the problem. You know, garbage in, garbage out. He learned that AI isn't a replacement for a human. It's a tool that needs skillful human guidance to work well. So, after this whole roller coaster, where did he finally end up? On what's called the plateau of productivity. The crazy hype is gone. The crushing disappointment is gone. What's left is just a calm, realistic understanding of what AI can actually do. But his journey also uncovered something else, something really unexpected and super important. So here's the kicker. When researchers looked back at his journal, they found something pretty alarming. His own words, the constant thinking about AI, the anxiety and irritability, the feeling of losing control, they perfectly match the clinical symptoms of something called problematic use of the internet, or PUI. It's a huge warning sign, right? It shows the very real human cost of jumping headfirst into these powerful new technologies without any guardrails. So, in the end, this whole story, this professor's journey, it's a powerful lesson. It teaches us that getting the hang of new tech is never a straight line. It's a hype cycle. And to get through it, you have to look past that initial wow moment and push through the inevitable disappointment to find what's actually useful. So the real question it leaves for you, for all of us, is this. As the next big thing comes along, how are you going to tell the difference between the hype and the real value?